Welcome to part 2 of my review on the high-grade Universal Century 1 to 144 scale RX-0 Unicorn Gundam Unicorn mode. To make a quick correction, the model with both feet together standing straight up is actually about 5.5 inches tall at the top of the head and just over 6.5 inches tall at the top of the unicorn horn. That makes this model one of the taller models in the high-grade Universal Century lineup. Most of the Gundams we see are in about the 18-meter range, which goes down to about just over 5 inches tall or so. For this one, I believe the dimensions mentioned in the stats of the mobile suit, it's about 19.7 meters at the head and then 21.7 meters at the top of the horn. That's compared to the original RX-782, which is I think like 18 meters at the head and then 18.5 meters at the top of the V-fin. Another thing to mention for anyone who doesn't know, the unicorn horn of the Unicorn Gundam during destroy mode actually splits apart and becomes the iconic forehead crest, the V-fin that we normally see on most of the Gundams we've seen previous to this design. So let's move on to articulation. It's pretty basic. The one thing I want to point out in terms of leg articulation is that the feet have very limited movement, simply because the ankle armor gets in the way. It's on the standard ball joint for the ankle. It can wobble side to side, and again, it's the ankle armor that gets in the way. The same thing goes for, you can actually rotate this 360 degrees, but I won't do it just because I don't want to sort of risk knocking any parts off or stressing a part. And actually, you can split the legs about this far apart with the soles of the feet flat on the surface, but any farther than that it just won't go due to the way that the ankles are limited in movement. Also, the knees are similarly hindered partly by design because the leg armor on the back sort of gets in the way of the thighs. Plus, the knee joints are, I believe, only a single hinge. There's an extra smaller kind of semi-hinge below that has some allowance for wiggle space, but it's not really a proper hinge. The front skirts are independent parts, so one can move and the other can stay where it is. It's really great for allowing maximum forward movement of the leg, of the thigh, but because of the back skirt, which is immobile, you can only move the leg back about that far and then you're stopped. The side skirts are on hinges. They move about that far apart. The legs can split about that far apart, but no further. And the pelvis joint's actually on a minor hinge, which allows some swiveling, which is great for a little more natural looking pose for the legs at least. So I really like that. The waist itself, there's no hindering armor, so you can rotate it with no problems 360 degrees. It's actually a hinged joint, so that it allows slight forward and back movement and side to side wiggle. Similarly, the shoulders are pretty standard these days with sort of forward and back movement, up and down. The shoulders rotate 360 degrees just below the shoulder joint. The elbows are capable of doing about just over 90 degrees in the front, but curiously, it actually can bend that far backwards. So that's kind of disconcerting for most people, myself included. And finally, the neck and the head, it can rotate 360 degrees. No problems. And what I really like about this model is that if you can see it here, the neck joint is actually not a simple peg. It has a component that swivels and moves with the head movement, so that if you make the RX-0 look up, it always has the full neck appearance. It doesn't have sort of the pencil neck peg that most of these model kits have. So if you move it, the whole part moves, which is really nice. It's not a major design detail, but I think it's quite innovative, and I'm surprised this is the first time that I'm aware of, at least, that this design feature has shown up in a model, high grade or otherwise. If I'm mistaken, please somebody correct me and let me know what other model or models have that feature. One thing I want to also point out while we're looking at the model is that you'll see, especially in person, it has a lot of panel lines, but you'll also notice during the process of putting the model together, a lot of the seam lines are very well hidden. They're concealed by becoming incorporated in the seams, or rather panels, of the mobile suit's design. So you really have a very unobtrusive look at the model, you don't notice many panel, rather seam lines that in other, like for example the older model kits, especially something like the very first high grade or high grade Universal Sentry kits, seam lines were everywhere. They would usually put them in the front of the leg armor, for example, whereas this model, it has a component that you snap onto the front and it conceals the seam lines. And the other seam lines that you do see, they're basically not bad, because if you consider that the Unicorn Gundam, the RX-0, has the capability, in the fiction to split apart to become the destroy mode version, it makes sense to see, open little gaps at certain points. It makes more sense in terms of the concept. Also, one thing I also forgot to mention and show in the first part is that it does indeed come with pink clear plastic for the beam saber blades. Really nice touch. Unfortunately, as far as I know, the destroy mode version of the high grade Universal Sentry kit does not come with beam saber blades. It also doesn't incorporate the neck design. For whatever reason, I really don't know why Bandai left that out, and the beam saber blades, which is, it's too bad. But aside from that, this and I believe the destroy mode, even though I don't have it yet, are really, really good kits, really good models. One downside to this is that the sort of gripping hands really can't hold the beam saber hilts securely. If you rest them like this, they're fine, but the first moment that you lift them up, they start sliding and they fall out. Not great, unfortunately, because there are ports in the handles here that work for the forearm components. You peg them in, but also it could have equally worked with a peg system for the hand, the palm. And actually, the destroy mode version of this model kit has pegs in the palms of the hands. I saw it at DeLong's website, where he showed that you could clip the beam rifle handle onto the hand. Why Bandai didn't add that to this model kit, I really don't know. I'm pretty sure that the design of both the Unicorn and destroy mode 1 to 144 scale models were done pretty much simultaneously. It's not as if they made the Unicorn mode months ahead and then just said, oh well, for destroy mode we forgot we could put pegs on the hands. Bandai was able to do this before. We saw that in the high grade Universal Sentry, Sazabi and New Gundam kits, and a couple of perhaps previous ones they didn't have like the rectangular pegs but the circular ones. But regardless, I mean, it's not something that is too difficult to implement. They're not that fragile, I don't believe. So yeah, it's just a shame that such a small but fairly important detail was left out of the Unicorn mode, because as it is right now, I would give this model an 8 out of 10. But if it had the extra feature of, seems almost silly, but a hand peg, a palm peg for holding the beam saber hilts, it would easily make it a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. Overall, as I mentioned in the first video, this is something that's a really great model. I definitely recommend it to anybody who wants to get the Unicorn Gundam but maybe doesn't want to spend the money on the master grade kit, or also doesn't want to risk the loosening of parts because they want to display it in Unicorn and destroy modes. Well, with the two high grade kits, you buy them together, they're not going to be as expensive as the master grade. Plus, you can display them at the same time, so you can see both destroy and Unicorn modes. And there's no issues with loosening of parts. So everything else, sharp details. You're definitely not settling for less if you get the high grade versions. It's very, very well detailed, and the price, it's not that expensive. It's definitely something that's, if you're a big fan of Gundam and the Unicorn Gundam design, definitely go for it. So that's my review. It's my first review, and I've only done this for my first review because mainly I haven't seen any video reviews of the RX-0 in the high grade scale yet, the 1 to 144 scale. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and perhaps this will help you decide one way or another whether or not to get this model. And I hope to be getting the destroy mode sometime soon in the next few weeks, and once I get it and assemble it, I'd like to do a review of that as well. So thanks again for watching. The next one up for my reviews will probably be the high grade version of the EMS 10 Zuda. So definitely leave comments, suggestions. If you have any models you want to see reviewed, let me know. If I have it, I will do so. So wherever you are, have a great day or have a great night. Thanks for watching.